Like everyone needs something. We all have a need right now. We all have a want, and we all have different skills and magic. The problem is we all try to be everyone else. So I try to say, I've got the best reach on my podcast. I've released like 5 episodes on my podcast. It's brand new. Yeah. My guest, John Lee Dumas. I launched a second podcast, because I thought, why not? First episode of my second podcast, a 2-hour podcast with Elrod. Yep. So it's, I didn't go and I didn't say, I've got the best reach. I've got the best audience. I went and found what my magic was. And I found what I needed, which is I needed the guests. Yes. So when you find your unique magic and you start to look and say, how can I help and how can I support and how can I build up? Before you know it, they want to come and help and support and build you up too.
This is an intro. Intro.
Hustle and flow chart with your boy, my boy, Matt Wolf and Joe Fair.
Hey.
Okay, so I think I have more notes from this episode than almost any episode we've done to date.
You and I, we're the same on that. This is ridiculous. This episode is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It's one we've been waiting for a while and did not disappoint at all.
Yes. No, this episode we're talking to Gary Henderson. We actually met Gary on ClubHouse, our very first live session. We'll tell the story in the episode, but we met him on ClubHouse and sort of got to chatting off of ClubHouse, and we realized this guy was brilliant and we need to have a deeper dive conversation with him.
I am so happy we made this connection, and he was so gracious to join us and literally be an open book around just everything. The guy has helped a lot of names that and a lot of folks that have been
let's just say some. Lewis Howes, Dr. Axe, Gabby Bernstein, Michael Hyatt, Ray Higdon, Jeff Walker, Hell Elrod.
Yep. Yeah, he is basically the guy that's helped blow those brands up. And, he's in the thick of it. And what he is doing now is really hot and heavy on ClubHouse.
Yeah.
But you'll hear it's just basically how he shows up in people's lives, relationships, and business, and how he's making these connections. And he's playing the long game, but at the same time, he's doing some big stuff in the short game too.
Yeah.
So we talk about how he's leveraging ClubHouse and basically everything else.
Yeah.
Not just ClubHouse, but this stuff applies.
ClubHouse is a big chunk of this episode, but he's also publishing a book. So we asked him about that process of how he got connected to the publisher, and because he's publishing it through Hay House. And, so we cover like a lot of ground. We cover how to, connect with influencers. The first few minutes of this chat isn't even about ClubHouse. It's like, hey, how do we get in contact with influencers to get connected with some of these names that we just mentioned?
Yeah, you definitely want to listen up and get the notes. But before that, go make sure to also check out Gary.club. That's actually his website. Awesome domain. Gary.club. That's going to get you a bunch of resources from Gary. And there's actually a whole bunch of ClubHouse stuff. So if you're interested in all the details there, go ahead over there.
Yep.
And also get the action guides of this episode over at flowchartgroup.com. Flowchartgroup.com. We took the notes 2 weeks of this going live. They are free for you.
Yes.
Go there, plug your email address in there. You also get access to our Facebook group. So you will dig it.
Oh,
will be great. And just a little quick shout out to Podhacker.
Yes.
Because this is very related to this conversation, which we bring up, I think, mid-show or so.
Yeah.
It's a new brand of ours. We are pulling back the curtain on our podcast and business and essentially giving you every little detail, and also bringing people like Gary. I'm sure we'll get Gary on the show there, or on the expert sessions that we do monthly at Podhacker. You're going to want him on there, and where we deep dive personally, deep.
Personally deep. You know what? Let's just send it over to Gary, because this conversation is way more coherent than we are right now.
That is very true. It's the end of the day, and I'm going to hit stop on this now. Bye-bye. All right, Gary, we're rolling. How you doing, my man? Good to see you.
Doing good, guys. Good to see you as well.
This is the first time we're seeing you in motion. Usually it's like some still shot with the same headset, I think, on ClubHouse.
It is the same headset. It's a slightly different angle. My wife's in that seat today. She's sitting literally right across the computer from me. But it's, it's odd to have video now after I've done so much audio only on ClubHouse.
I saw the picture on ClubHouse, and I assumed you were like a pilot, because it looks like a pilot's headset.
Everyone did. This is Lewis Howes. This is a headset that Lewis used We all grabbed it. Everyone on the team grabbed the same headset when we worked with Lewis. And I live in an apartment. So I'm on the 4th floor here in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And they were literally jackhammering the 5th floor, like busting up the tile. I couldn't concentrate. And I was doing podcasts and doing client calls and nobody could hear it.
Whoa.
Because this mic is so good. It's a bit annoying because it is a headset, but the mic is insane.
What's the headset name? Like, what do you got there?
It's an Audio Technica headset.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was like $200 on Amazon. So it wasn't like, it's not that this was thousands of dollars. It's just going through like one of the Scarletts, the little Focusrites.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So nothing but like, I mean, jackhammers and you can't hear anything.
Wow. Yeah, it
Just
sounds great
when
though.
you live in the city.
It's got a great microphone on it.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, I mean, when we met, I forget exactly how we got connected, but it was through ClubHouse, and we were hopping in rooms, moderating together. I mean, that's the beauty of ClubHouse.
I think it was that. Were you in the room where I think Tyrese Gibson popped in and was sharing his stories about Jeff Bezos and stuff? I think that was because that I think was the very first time Joe and I had ever done a live ClubHouse. Was we got on ClubHouse. I think it was me, Joe, Brad Costanzo, Sean Vossler, and a few other people kind of started off a room about how to connect with influencers.
That's right.
Right. And we started off that room. We'd never done a ClubHouse. And somehow Tyrese stumbled upon it, came in the room. Next thing we know, there's 700 people in the room listening to us. And this is our first time going live on ClubHouse.
What is this thing? Where have you been my whole life?
It's wild. You know, it is one of the wildest platforms, the wildest algorithms that I've ever experienced in my life.
So what's your perspective
I don't
on
even
it?
know how to. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. It's, you know, there's not a lot of rhyme or reason when you get a room that has 100 people in it or 5,000 people in it. There's not a true way to like hack the algorithm. I've been running a room today for a friend of mine. He had a 4-hour meeting. He said, "Would you run the room for me while I'm gone?" And I was like, "Okay." We kept it at about 1.4K the entire day.
Wow.
I have some stats that I'm running behind the scenes in these ClubHouse rooms, and it's fascinating because this room today, and I don't know, we ran for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 6 hours, and we had about 45,000 people go through the room.
That's great.
Now, we never got above 1,900 at any concurrent time. So 1,900 was our max listeners, which is what you see when you're looking at ClubHouse. It tells you how many people's in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You were just talking about 700. We never got above like 1954 or something like that. But we had over 45,000 people go in and out of the room. The average person stuck and listened for 12 minutes.
Wow. How do you get that
tells
number?
you
that bigger number?
It's a piece of software called Direcon, Direcon.
Okay.
It's brand new. There's about 200 people using it. It's $50 a month. And what you do is when you go into the room and you're a mod, so you have the little green bean, you get to moderate the room. You grab the URL and you put it in your desktop in the Direcon dashboard. And when you put it in the dashboard, and I don't know, do you guys screen share here?
You can if you want. Oh, I don't know. For the audio, it might not be the best.
Yeah. I mean, I think most people listen on audio. So
yeah.
Well, I'll show you and I'll talk through it really quickly so because I do know you're doing a little bit of video, but it ends up looking just like this. So it tells you how many average time listen for your room, your stickiness for the room, how many speakers came in and out of the room, the total number of listeners, the max number of listeners, the duration of time. This room that I'm talking about has been running for 7 hours and 1 minute. Max number of listeners is 1,962. We've had 44,005 total listeners come through the room. We've had a total listen time of 10,321 hours and 40 minutes. And this is just today. The average person listened for 14 minutes. Stickiness was 3.32%. Obviously, this room's been going for hours. Not many people can stick around for hours. And then when it's done, it will tell us how many speakers came on stage.
Wow.
So, and then beyond that, they're actually building a database of your entire listening audience and telling you who your most popular listeners are.
Ooh,
so I can see like this person, Joe, he's listened in 6 of my rooms and he's listened for 10 hours and 22 minutes in rooms where I've been on stage.
So those are your followers. And so you're knowing.
These are just people in the room, just in the audience listening.
Got it.
And it's tracking every person that's in a room when I'm on stage as a speaker, not necessarily using my share of voice, but just physically having the microphone privileges to be able to speak. And it's tracking that this person, Joe, has been in 6 of the rooms where I've had the privilege to speak. And he's actually stayed in the audience or been in that room, whether he's been on stage or in the audience or any capacity, for 10 hours and 22 minutes listening to me.
Wow.
Or listening to rooms that I've been listening to too. So now I know that this person, Joe, would be an amazing person to probably reach out to. He probably has a lot of the same thoughts that I have. He's probably engaging in the same types of conversations. He may be an ideal client. I may be an ideal client of his. I can go look at who's he engaging with on Instagram. I could do one-off market research. So all of this cool stuff on one piece of software that's $50 a month.
That's the first time we've heard of that.
Yeah, and
and I know you all like to get into some tactical stuff and some in the weeds and stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
It's fun to talk about that stuff sometimes.
Well, I do want to talk about ClubHouse, and I want to talk about connecting with influencers and launches and all of the stuff that's your specialty. But I also want to kind of go back a little bit and let your audience hear your story a little bit. So, you've worked with guys like Lewis Howes and Gabby Bernstein and Michael Hyatt and just some really, really big name in our industry, some big name influencers in the sort of marketing world. How did you get into this? Where'd you start?
It's kind of funny. So I had an agency that I was running in 2009, 10, 11, and 12. And I wanted to be on stage at this event called Blue Glass. Mm-hmm. And it was ran by Lauren Baker, which Lauren's one of the founders of Search Engine Journal, Greg Bozer, and Chris Winfield, which Chris and his fiance now, Jen, own Super Connector Media. Mm-hmm. So I went to Blue Glass. I was like, man, this is an awesome event. It's epic. And I went. And I went and I was an attendee, and then I applied to speak. And then I went to the second one as an attendee and I applied to speak. So then I said, well, I'm just going to go create my own. So I did. I created my own event called ID 2013. I ran it in 2013. We ran it in South Beach, and I just went all out. I spent about 120 grand in 2 days. Wow. I had attendees in the audience like Community Coffee, Kohler, all these big corporate brands. My speakers were people like Rand Fishkin, Peter Shankman, Michael King. Blue Glass happened to fold during that time. So Lauren Baker and Greg Bozer came to my event to speak on my stage. They did a tell-all about the fold of Blue Glass and what went wrong as they were partners in the company and how they expanded too quickly and then collapsed. So it was an epic event. And I got invited to some big stages at that point in time and big opportunities. I got invited to come in and pitch NBC Universal, Community Coffee, and Dollywood. And I was shortlisted or won all three of those accounts. And I subsequently lost all three of those accounts because I was running about a 10-man team. And they would not hand the $250 million digital budget from Community Coffee to a little 10-man team in South Carolina. Every single one of those companies offered to hire me. And I wouldn't take a job. So that happened, and I started to experience that. And then I had one client that represented about 30% of my income. And every year, come January, it was a hotel chain. And they would look at me, and we had some discrepancies in our billing. They wouldn't pay a couple invoices throughout the year. And we would go to reconcile everything. And they would say, well, I'd say, well, you owe me 20 grand. And they would say, well, you got a choice. We're going to either pay you the 30 grand we're paying you this month, or we're going to pay you the 20 grand that we owe you from last year, but we're going to cancel our contract. And I was held hostage. And I said, I'm done. So I hired, well, I didn't hire. I actually take this back. I entered into a relationship with a business coach. Her name was Suzanne Evans. She taught me a super valuable lesson, and she said I needed a package. I didn't have one. I didn't know I needed one. So I read the book by Blair Enns that said that the world doesn't need another generalized design firm. What the world needs is a specialist. So I read that book, or I read a paragraph or two out of that book. I built a package. And then she said, and by the way, I need traffic. Okay, I can do traffic. So I started doing traffic for influencers. And I had a couple clients out of Suzanne Evans' world. She coaches, she's, I think, 5 times Inc. 500, 5,000 award winner, New York Times bestselling author. She runs a great business. She's based in Cary, North Carolina, Chapel Hill. But I flew out to Steve Olsher's event, Internet Profits Live. And I spoke at, this was way back in the day. It's 14, 15. Internet Profits Live. I spoke with Lewis Howes. And Lewis had his partner or his friend or his roommate, Caesar, with him. And it was Matt's first month in the company. And I looked at Lewis, and I met Lewis. He was introduced through Maston Kipp. I met Lewis, and I said, you got a choice, man. You can either invest a year of your time and energy in training the agency you just hired, or you can fire them and hire me. And we hugged it out. We did not work together. And about a month later, I got a call and said, hey, we'd like to work with you. And I learned that if I could get myself in the right room, I knew what I was doing. I understood it. I could build the relationships. So a couple of months later, I got the call to get on the phone with Eben Pagan. So I got on the phone with Eben, and he was selling the first MetaMind. I paid my $3,000 and I went to MetaMind. And at that event, I met Jeff Walker. And I said, Jeff, you can either pay someone to learn how to do it or you can hire me. And I ended up joining Jeff's mastermind, and and it just dominoes from there. But every chance, it was basically I would get an opportunity, I would deliver on exactly what I said I would deliver on, and then they would introduce me to someone else. And then I would deliver on exactly what I said I would deliver on, and then they would introduce me to someone else. So much so that, whenever we did a book for one of my clients back in 2016, and the CEO of Hay House, Reed Tracy, calls me and he's like, Gary, how'd you do this? We hit number 9 of all books on Amazon 6 months before we published on a book about aromatherapy.
I love it.
And I didn't have a trick. All I did was I had an audience of people waiting to buy a book about aromatherapy. So that's it. So I don't have marketing tricks. I'm not the sexiest marketer in the world. I don't have all these black hat ninja tricks. I just know how to align an audience with an offer and get people to do what we need them to do.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like on the sort of influencer front, one of the questions, one of the rabbit holes we wanted to go down was, how do we connect with influencers and, get on their radar? But it sounds like your story was the answer to that question. Just get in the room with them, invest, get to know the people you need to get to know, and just be in the room. It sounds like.
Ask.
Everybody needs something. Everyone needs something. We all have a need right now. We all have a want, and we all have different skills and magic. The problem is we all try to be everyone else. So I try to say, I've got the best reach on my podcast. Well, I've released 5 episodes on my podcast. It's brand new.
Yeah.
My guest, John Lee Dumas. I launched a second podcast because I thought, why not? First episode of my second podcast, a 2-hour podcast with Elrod.
Yep.
So it's, I didn't go and I didn't say, I've got the best reach. I've got the best audience. I went and found what my magic was. And I found what I needed, which is I needed the guests.
Yep.
So when you find your unique magic and you start to look and say, how can I help and how can I support and how can I build up? Before you know it, they want to come and help and support and build you up too.
Yeah. And
if they don't, someone else will, and it'll be okay, because I totally believe the energy we throw out into the world is the energy that we get back from someone. It doesn't have to be the same person we're serving and building up. Maybe they needed to be built up and somebody else will come build us up later.
Yeah. I love this journey because it's something that everyone can do. You don't need to be a paid traffic ninja or hire some agency to do this stuff for you. You literally get in the room. And this is a similar story to Matt and I, starting off in our industry, and what started my company, your company separate at the time, is get in the room, go to every conference possible. And sometimes we didn't even pay for it, just hang out in the bar. But our goal is at least the one I always had in my mind, I'm going to make at least break even from this trip in my time out there. And like you said, you deliver, and then you just rinse and repeat, get the referral network going. And that it's not magic. It's just you do the work and be consistent with it.
Yeah, and you listen to people. When I got Peter Shankman to come and speak. So Peter Shankman founded Haro. Help a reporter out. Big company. This was back in the day. So this was 2013 when Peter Shankman was Haro. This isn't Peter Shankman today in 2021. This is Peter Shankman 2013. He had a baby. I got him to come and speak at my event. He's the only speaker I paid. And I only paid him $5,000 because he had a baby. But I found what he wanted. He had never been on stage with Rand Fishkin. Ever. He wanted to be on stage with Rand Fishkin. Rand was my first speaker to say yes.
Perfect.
So when Rand said yes, my second speaker, I knew, because I knew I wanted Peter. So I had watched Peter's tweets. I had Google alerts on Peter's name. I knew what Peter was asking. I knew the questions he was typing into the search engines, because I knew where he would land, or if he would go to, Quora or whatever was out at that point in time, or if he was tweeting a certain question. One of Peter's famous stories is Morton showing up at the airport with a steak for him because he tweeted he'd like to have a steak.
That's amazing.
Right. Super cool story. Well, I went to Peter and I said, Peter, I know you have a child coming. I'm having this event and I have an amazing opportunity for you. Well, I didn't say I need you to come and speak. I said, I have an opportunity for you. Well, what's my opportunity, Gary? I can put you on stage with Rand Fishkin and I'll give you the open mic to talk about the future of social media. I'll share that video with you one day. It's insane.
Please.
But Peter said yes. And then he said, but I got a kid, and we figured out the math and all this stuff. It worked. And he flew in, he did his event, and he flew right back out. But I found what he wanted. I didn't make it about me. I made it about Peter. How do I set Peter up to be successful? Well, you know what happened on ClubHouse one day? I wanted to run a room. So I got out to Peter and I said, hey, Peter, you want to come into ClubHouse and run a room? Sure, Gary, I'd love to. I brought Peter Shankman right back into ClubHouse. The new creator coins. I don't know if you guys have seen those, the rally coins. Like Bomani has a coin. It's a new creator crypto coin on the Ethereum network.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that yet.
Well, Peter Shankman has a creator coin. I wanted a creator coin. There's only 59 people right now that have one. I will have one next week.
That's awesome.
Because I went to Peter and I said, Peter, can you help me by putting me on the short list with the founders of the creator coin so I can get a creator coin? I've kept that relationship intact for 8 years because I've never needed to use it. And I made it about Peter. How can I help Peter? How can I help Peter? I have 50,000 followers-ish on ClubHouse. Peter doesn't. So what happens when I come in the room? I bring my following. I help Peter. So how do I help that person? So when you go to someone, any influencer you want to work with, you have to spend the time and energy to figure out what they want and what they need right now. And when you figure out what they want and what they need, and you're able to solve that problem, it doesn't have to be that you solved it. Literally, for John Lee Dumas, I'm making connections to people that he needs to meet. I'm not doing, he doesn't, I mean, my podcast isn't going to help John Lee Dumas out that much. I mean, I'm on like episode 5. You know how many downloads episode 5 gets in the podcast.
Oh, yeah, like 2.
Yeah, like I think I did pretty good. I got like 160.
That was pretty good, man.
So I consider that pretty good for episode 5.
That's great.
But still, like, I got a 33-minute interview with him. And on top of that, he said, Gary, the audio is so good. Do you mind if I re-release it on my podcast?
Done.
So he released it as a bonus episode on his podcast because I showed up ready to serve and feature him as the expert because I knew what he needed. I knew he needed to sell books.
So when you don't know their need, or let's say you have a connection for 8 years or so, how do you keep that connection, or how do you keep yourself top of mind? And like, do you have, and obviously you're always listening, I'm imagining, but are you texting? I mean, obviously there's a million ways to do this, and ClubHouse is probably a lot easier now. How do you stay top of mind?
It's remembering one thing. So do you know the name Derek Halpern from Social Triggers?
Definitely.
You know Derek? Okay, so I have a story about Derek. Derek taught me a very valuable lesson one day. He taught me how to do an introduction. And I've kept this lesson with me forever and ever. I was actually teaching this lesson in a room. I launched a room on ClubHouse the other day and I had about 75 people in the room. And it was, who do I need to meet? That was the title of the room. Derek's in the audience. I didn't think anybody could hear my voice because random people start popping on stage. Random people start leaving. I brought someone up just to see if they could hear me. And then I start telling the story about Derek. And what he did is one day I made an introduction to Derek and I thought I was doing the best thing in the world. I thought it was going to be the perfect introduction between Derek and this person. And Derek honored the introduction because he honored me. And he taught me that you never, ever, ever make a blind introduction to someone because you don't know where that person's at. You don't know if they're available. You don't know the relationship. You don't know their past history. I start telling the story. Derek raises his hand. I haven't talked to Derek in 7 years, 6 years. Derek comes on stage. He's like, Gary, I didn't even remember that story. I do now, but I didn't remember it. Derek and I talked for 20 minutes on a ClubHouse stage with 70 people in the audience. I didn't need to keep my relationship intact with him.
Right.
But I never burned the bridge. I just let it kind of fizzle out and die out. So I left it in a good spot and I didn't bother it. A lot of times we try to keep it intact when we don't need to. If there's not a reason to talk to me, like if we're good friends, like cool, it makes sense. Like my friend Joshua B. Lee, I've been checking on him. He's had some stuff going on with his family and they had the storm down there. I've been checking on him. He's my friend. I checked on how Elrod, he wasn't in Austin when the storm came. How's my friend?
Yeah.
But I'm not checking on everyone all the time. They're not my friends. They're just my associates. They're my colleagues. A lot of times we get I had to learn it the hard way being behind the scenes. My clients, I thought they were my friends. Nope. I was their vendor. I thought they were my friends. I was their vendor. And that's okay. I learned that. And when we learn that, we learn our place in the relationship, then we know we don't have to keep it intact, but we have to leave it at a great spot. Now, I'll tell you, if you take and you want to build a relationship with someone and like, for example, let's say that you wanted to build a relationship with Hal Elrod, go see who Hal follows on Instagram. Go see how many people in his circle you can start building a relationship with. Eventually, you'll get a relationship with Al. Proximity, right?
Yeah.
You're just getting closer. Like there's social proximity just the same way as there's real life proximity.
Yeah.
Going and joining the mastermind, going to the live event, going and getting at the right room at the right time. There's social proximity too.
Yeah.
Showing up and commenting on their posts. Just every so often going and reading, but it's really remembering one key point, one key story that you can tell. And then you work that into your life. I can tell that story about Derek Halpern every day for the rest of my life. It's so valuable. I almost forget it sometimes, and sometimes I do, and I mess up, and I'm like, oh no, I messed up. I did the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But I tell it because I don't want people to do that to me either, because I had never been popular like this until ClubHouse came around. And then I started to get those blind introductions. And I had so much stuff flying at me 14 ways that I couldn't keep up. And I was like, I finally get what it's like to be popular. I've never had that. Like I've never had, I'm one of the first 50 accounts on Instagram to get Instagram bots.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Out of the whole platform, there's only 50 accounts that got them. I was one of the first 50. My Instagram DMs are insane. They've never been insane. I've had access to some of the biggest accounts in the influencer space on Instagram. My DMs blow theirs away.
Wow.
They are insane.
So how are you? Because this is something that personally I do struggle with. I'm in a better place with it, but like, because I do a lot more of the interactions of the two of us. But I mean, like, you get a ton of this too. But how do you keep up with all the multiple inboxes you have? Instagram. I know Twitter's one, email, and the cold outreach. Do you have a way to kind of manage all that and keep yourself sane at the same time?
For the most part, in all honesty, you pay to play.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds a little weird, but when you pay, I pay attention. So right now, the way my bot is set up, when you send me any message, when you tag me in any story. So if you added me to your Instagram story right now, my bot would send you a message automatically and say, thank you. If you commented on any of my Instagram posts, my bot would send you a message right now and say, thank you. If you sent me a message on Instagram right now, my bot would send you a message and say, thank you. And then when you replied, it would invite you to go to Gary.club.
Mm-hmm.
And it would invite you to go put in your email, which gives you opportunities to pay if you choose. Well, as you start to ascend through that pipeline, one of the reasons why I'm getting a creator coin is so you can actually make small investments in my brand. Well, you may not want to go spend 500 or 15,000 or whatever those numbers are, but maybe you do want to send me a couple coins and say, here, thanks, Gary. We really appreciated you. Kind of like Patreon, or kind of like the Facebook supporter program, or kind of like OnlyFans, but for Gary.
But crypto.
I'm not really OnlyFans material.
Some people, maybe.
I mean, maybe there are some weird people.
There's an audience.
But that's what you do.
Yeah.
And that's how I can't keep up with them. And that's why the bots were so important to me, because my flow of messaging is insane.
Yeah.
And I needed to get something back to people quickly. And then from there, if they want my attention, then there's some pathways to get there. They can upgrade to VIP access. They can buy some coaching. They can buy some time. They can invest in a creator coin that I have. Or they can just show up and keep commenting, just keep coming to my rooms, keep showing up in the audience, keep raising their hands, and eventually they'll build a relationship that way too.
Yeah. And I know originally we built a relationship because we shared the room, but we started and we brought you on as a mod. I forget exactly what it was, but yeah, I mean, because that's what I've noticed is with ClubHouse, the more you're on stage or speaking, your Instagram's going to blow up, assuming you're speaking, giving good value and you have a great profile. But it's like, you can't neglect that inbox as well, because that's an extension of, what you do. Obviously a bot.
You can. Yeah. I was going to say you can if you do it right. So right now, everyone can put some FAQs in their Instagram. So there's a way you can put 4 quick buttons that someone can click a button. There's 4 choices. And then when someone goes to message you, they can choose one of these 4 options, which makes it somewhat easier, right? Because now you're narrowing their choices a little bit. And most people, in all honesty, will just click the button because they don't want to type. They want it to be easy too. Well, my button says, would you like to get the free ClubHouse guide? Well, the button says, can I have your free ClubHouse guide, Gary? Well, cool. They hit that button. It sends me that message. This was before I had the bot. Instagram also has something called saved replies.
Yep.
Well, my saved reply said, most definitely. I would love to send you that. And by the way, you can go do this, this, and this, and gave them a couple more steps. So yes, I did have to physically reply, but now I got 80% of the people typing the same message to me. And 80% of the people got the 1-click reply back.
Brilliant.
And then I got the bots in place, and now it's automated. And that's it.
Awesome.
And I tell them, but I gave them the invitation. If you want more direct access to Gary, go here.
Huh?
So I told them very clearly, you don't get direct access to Gary on Instagram.
Yeah. That's big.
That's not where I'm not serving you. Like someone said the other day, they said, so if I want access, I got to wire you this much money. I said, no, I'll give you free coaching all day long on ClubHouse in front of a live audience. I'm not giving you free coaching in my DMs.
I think that's a
what they're wanting.
That's a good distinction because we've talked about it and we're like, does this, and we're just chatting about it. Like, does it devalue someone's brand? Like let's say Jesus, my brain is misfiring, but any influencer that's on there. John Assaraf is a buddy of ours, and he was in Mastermind the other day, and he's like on there all the time. And some people are like, oh, well, why would I join his mastermind if I could just get him all the time here? But to your point, you're totally right. It's free. That's just the entryway right there. It's the land grab. It's the attention, thing, catalyst that then pushes them down the pipe there.
You pay for access. And when you're giving away a lot for free, when you have a big, and I've never had this, I've had it for my clients. I've never had it personally. I made $2.5 million off of 27 clients in annual revenue. That was consulting revenue. So I didn't need thousands of clients to go make $2.5 million. I needed 27 of them.
Yeah.
It's really easy to find 27 people to pay you the kind of money. Like that's not that hard, knowing what I know, knowing what you know, and knowing what our listeners know here. But it's really hard to go get 10,000 people to pay you $500.
Yep.
That's really difficult. So I had to figure out that differently. So when you flip the model and you start serving for free and you monetize at a lower price point, then the expectation for that access goes up. So now so in January, I ran a test. So we're recording this in February. I have no clue when you'll publish this live, but in January of 2021, I ran a test. I had 4 people pay in full for an annual program that's north of $10,000 without ever getting on the phone with me. And I met them on ClubHouse.
Love it, man.
All they did was hear me talk, hear me coach, hear my voice, follow me around at their own pace. I was serving a lot. I was in there. And then I would get messages that would say, client, how do I invest? I'd write them back and I'd say 500 or 15,000. I'll take the 15,000. Where do I send the money? Boom. 4 people. And I ran a test. That's it. I just wanted to run a test and say, if I do this, will I get this result? If then, because I got a book to write. I'm writing a 44,000 word book and I've got a manuscript due in 2 months. I got a lot of work to do. I just needed to run a test. So I ran a test. Yeah, I ran a test. It worked. Now I know I can start to grow it back slowly. I'm not going to go in at the same rate I was going in because I have a different goal today. And I think that's a big problem that a lot of people have is they set multiple expectations and you can't serve 2 masters.
Right.
When you go into these ClubHouse rooms or when you're on Instagram or you have your podcast or your newsletter or whatever you have, what's my goal for this? What's my expectation? And if I set the right expectation, I can go get that result, but I can't get everything.
That's a big distinction because on ClubHouse, people just, I know for us, our perception are like, oh my God, Gary's like always on here. But obviously there's a plan that you have these bumpers, you have an agenda there. And there's a good reason why you're on there, but you can't do it all. You can't be a master podcast or all these things and expect to always live on ClubHouse. And I see a lot of people stressing out, like, I got to be on ClubHouse or I got to be there all the time. FOMO. We had that for a little bit back in December when we popped in there. But this is, I think, perfect timing for a lot of folks to hear who are just getting into ClubHouse because we're hearing a lot of folks just kind of spread thin and almost anxious because they're going to miss out on something. I got to be in there.
You're not, we're talking 10 million users. Like, let's just be real. We talked about, and John Lee Dumas is quite public with this. He gets, I have no clue how many you guys get, but he gets 1.4 million downloads per month on his podcast. He's pretty public about all of his numbers.
We're not there yet,
but he's pretty public on all of his numbers. He's one of the most transparent people that I know. He gets over 1/10 of the entire user base of ClubHouse downloading his podcast every single month. You could get on ClubHouse 5 years from now and not miss the boat.
Right.
There are people today that are getting on YouTube. They're not missing the boat. The lady, and I forget her name, but she read the poem at the presidential inauguration. And she grew to so many million, 2 million followers or something on Instagram.
Like that. Yeah.
She didn't miss the boat. She got 2 million followers. There's people today, right now, that have I mean, Lewis Howes has a hell of a podcast. I don't think he has 2 million followers on Instagram like that. He definitely didn't get them that same day like she did. There's plenty of opportunity when you become relevant. Now, if you're just trying to get in to get vanity metrics and say, I want to get them quick and easy and cheap, and then sure, maybe, you know, I missed the opportunity. Bomani, the icon, he's at 3.1 million. Like he hit the opportunity on the head.
Yeah.
Swan Sit, I think she's topping 2 million. She hit the opportunity on the head. She's the former VP of digital for Nike.
Oh, all right.
So she hit the opportunity on the head. So some people like that, John Lee, my friend that's on stage with me a lot, he's at 240,000 followers. He came on the same day as me. He's at 240,000. I'm at 47.4. He grew a lot faster than me. He also has 5 million followers on social media. I don't have close to that.
Right.
I had like 2,300 on Instagram whenever I started.
I mean, you're a perfect case study of literally everything started right. I mean, not everything, but you know, you got in the room, which back to your point, you got it in the room at ClubHouse, but not only you got in the room, you show up in the room, you speak at the room, you start the rooms. Are you usually the one creating the rooms, or are you a mod that hops in?
I very rarely create my own rooms because my goal right now is audience. And when you create your own rooms, you got to pull everybody together, and you gotta play politics. I just go to rooms and just go and serve.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I live in Puerto Rico. My time zone was my advantage. So I went into this room on how to run $1 million business, I think was what it was called. And I went in and started serving in that room. Well, the founders of that room, they were from California, West Coast, somewhere out there, West Coast somewhere. Well, they would want to go to bed. Well, right now, you know what time it is where you are. It's 2:40 p.m. where I am. It is 10:40 a.m. on the West Coast.
Yep.
Because we're 4 hours apart right now. So they would want to go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. I wake up and I'm ready to work at 5 a.m. my time. They go to bed. I wake up and serve. John Lee, 5 a.m. my time was 9 a.m. in London. John Lee lives in London. John Lee and I were there ready to serve. 5 a.m. my time, 9 a.m. his time. We're going hard. Everybody else is sleeping. And then so now we start to build a reputation. Then people start to go spread out and do their own things.
Yeah.
Do their own things. Well, what happens? Well, Gary and John. You need me to help in your room. So all I did was I used what I had to my benefit. I know how to coach people. So I'm respectable on a stage, and I wake up early. And you want to go to bed, and I'll just be there when you wake up. And that's what I did. As soon as they came back, I said, John Lee, I was running his room today, and he came back 15 minutes early. He sent me a message on WhatsApp. He's like, I'm back, Gary. I was like, everyone, John Lee is back. John Lee, I hope you had an amazing meeting, and immediately handed him the microphone. It's his room. I was there to run my role, but I'll tell you, running my role today, I've added over 1,100 followers on ClubHouse today alone. Just by serving my role. So did I get a benefit out of that? 100% I did. Did he get a benefit? 100% he did. We all rose together. What was my role? Like I went into what was the airline that went down? Air Malaysia, the airline that went down.
Yep.
I was on stage, John Lee, the CEO of Air Malaysia, me.
Whoa.
We had 6,000 people in the room. I recorded the whole thing. I didn't speak. I tried to speak, but my audio was all messed up and it didn't even sound right. But I didn't speak. I was busy on client calls. I was there to help my buddy. My skill set at that moment was I have a Rodecaster and I could record it for him.
There you go.
So what did I do? I used my skill set. That's what I have to help John Lee. What did John Lee do for me? He bought me Gary.club as a gift. I have no clue what he paid for it. That was a gift to me. So all we're doing is you're just helping each other out. And sure, there'll be money that'll exchange hands here and there. But more than that, there's relationships that exchange hands.
I think that's what I like about ClubHouse. It feels natural and organic. You know, it's very serendipitous, but at the same time, you can collaborate with the people you do like and trust, and you know how to serve them, but you're collectively serving together. And then, you know, the followers and whatever the algorithm's doing to match and really feels serendipitous more so than any other social network out there.
It also feels like it's a sort of great equalizer platform. You can be famous, get on ClubHouse and be starting from zero. You can be a, quote unquote, a nobody that people don't really know, but provide a ton of value on ClubHouse. And all of a sudden you skyrocket past the celebrities, right? So there's this like equalizing level playing field that I love about ClubHouse. And I think the fact that you can't see each other on video is a big factor in that as well.
Well, you can't have your team do it. That's the hard part. So, if we were doing this podcast interview, and if anyone's listening, you can tell this isn't scripted, but a lot of podcasts are, especially when you get into big names. They require you to send the questions ahead of time. They have to figure out, what can we talk about? What can't we talk about? You hear their responses. They sound like mini keynotes because they're canned, even though you may have sporadically asked them this question out of order. It's still their canned response.
Sure.
Clubhouse, you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's getting thrown at you, and you can't give a canned response. It's almost impossible, especially if you're there for any duration of time. So you could come in for 5 or 10 minutes, give a couple canned responses, and leave. But the people that are spending any duration of time, they're like, I wasn't a Grant Cardone fan. I am now. Strictly because of Clubhouse. Yep. Tai Lopez, I definitely wasn't a Tai Lopez fan.
I agree on both those fronts. Yeah.
I am now because Tai is smart. And I never knew that. Because that's not the perception they played on social media. Because when we get on social media, our team tells us, look like this, film this, put the captions this way, record the audio this way, do your YouTube video this way, post this. Most of these people don't even have a clue what's been posted on their social media.
It's true.
They're just doing, and they're like, oh, I got 10,000 followers today. Wow, good job, team. Yay.
Yep.
Well, did you like that motivational quote? What did we talk about? Well, it's because it can all be faked or phoned in. You can't phone in Clubhouse.
Yeah. I think Instagram is phoned in the most, and that's where I know that honestly, for a while, I think it was Instagram that kind of made me just like, screw social media, man. Like, this doesn't feel like a connection anymore. And I know that was the whole point. And then bam, Clubhouse came around. I was like, oh shit, this is cool. It's different. It takes a lot of time if you let it take a lot of time of your day. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, there's so many ways to benefit from it or benefit others, by giving value. And you can almost like practice the muscle. That's what we found. It's like, it's an amazing testing ground to maybe lob an idea out there. Maybe it's a new webinar or just a speech that you're going to give, and maybe you work out the kinks, get feedback, work out the butterflies if you're nervous about the topic or whatever. Have you found similar things there?
Oh, 100%. I test everything there. I learned the other day that this is, I guess you have mostly a US audience, so I can say this. I test all your bits there. If you have a UK audience, evidently you're not supposed to test your bits. That's not proper in the UK, I've been told. But in the US world, we test our bits there. And that's what you should be doing. Yeah. What you should do is you should use Clubhouse as your prime testing ground. At any given point in time, you can get an audience of a couple hundred people live that will engage with you every single moment. Yeah. So what you do is you go to Clubhouse and you test and you test and you practice and you practice and you practice your lines and you bring people on stage. Give me your question. Give me your question. What are you doing? You're writing down every single question. What are you going to do with every question they ask you? Go produce a YouTube video. Go produce a Facebook video. Go produce Instagram posts. Go produce blog content, because that's what your ideal clients want. And then go push ads to them. Set up your Instagram remarketing pixel. Push all of your Clubhouse people over to Instagram. What happens then? Now you have a Facebook audience right there, right?
Yep.
We got a Facebook audience. Trigger a lookalike audience. Now you've got 2.1 million people in the United States that look just like your Clubhouse followers.
Damn.
What do you serve them? You serve them the same damn thing that you just told 100 people in Clubhouse, but now you go tell 2 million people that. Because you're using the power of impact, the power of social media to take what you're testing, those bits you just tested on Clubhouse, to leverage them in a big, big way in YouTube, on your blog, on a podcast, on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever you go play.
Yeah. Another thing that I've seen on Clubhouse that I think is really cool is you see these people going and practicing their pitches as well. So like there's a lot of investors, a lot of people with a lot of money, and every once in a while you'll see these rooms that say something like, pitch us your idea, just like Shark Tank, one of us might buy. And people can go on there and actually practice their pitches. And most of the times I'm in those rooms, you don't really see them going and buying these companies, but you see a lot of feedback, a lot of, here's what I would tweak about your pitch. Here's what I would say differently. Here's how I would angle it differently. And I think it's brilliant for people that are out there looking for investments as well.
I've personally seen and know of $25 million in deals funded directly from Clubhouse.
I believe it. Yeah.
I know clients of mine are in talks with big investors. Like one of my clients is in talks with Tai Lopez to invest in his company because Ty's on a big grab right now.
Oh yeah. He just got a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
brick
and
mortar.
he's on Clubhouse shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Ty is also supposedly creating a competitor Clubhouse. So he's on Clubhouse investigating too.
Is he on Spaces at Twitter? I'm just kidding.
I don't know that answer, but if you go look at his story at this moment, whenever we're recording this, he's talking about his competitor of Clubhouse.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's interesting that people are seeing it, but everybody, Grant Cardone's there looking for opportunities. I've seen Mr. Wonderful there. I've seen Barbara Corcoran there. What are they doing? Kevin Harrington's there all the time.
Damon John's on it almost every time I log on too. Yeah.
Yep. Looking for opportunities, because what do they want? They want people.
Deals. Yeah.
They're looking for people. Well, what's Clubhouse full of? People. I've now hired my second person off of Clubhouse. I'm hiring people there. I'm hiring people that I get to hear them talk. I like the way they're acting. They show up. They seem respectful. I go sit in the audience. I let them pitch me live on stage on why I should hire them. Literally, I was on stage today. Someone was talking. I liked what they said. I sent them a message. I said, would you be willing to be on my team? I said, I need 20 hours a week right now, but I want to consume your company and bring it full time in my company soon. They said, I don't want to run my company anymore. I'd love to do it. And we're starting next week on a test run at a small retainer of 20 hours a week to test their team out to see if I want to bring their team into my company. And if I do, I'll just jump in and grab their team. Yeah, man. And they will be part of my company. Their owner will become a team lead on my company. All from Clubhouse.
You're absorbing that company as another arm of your business, and they're still running.
They do funnels and they do marketing design work. I need that for me personally, and then my clients need that. Man. Who better to do than to just go grab a company that's already doing 6 or 7 figures in that space?
For sure. I wonder if Roland's on there. Yeah, Roland Frazier. I know
he's been on there.
I know he's on there, but I wonder if he's doing I'm sure he's doing the same strategy.
Yep, he's in there trying to do some of that exact same stuff. There's so many people there. I mean, we're talking 40-some thousand people that went through a room this morning. Tell me where for free you could take 6 hours of your time today and stand in front of 45,000 people.
Yeah, man.
That are your ideal people that chose to go in that room.
Ooh. I don't even know it's so good. I mean, that's the thing. And I think you just have to, if someone's not in Clubhouse yet, figure out a way to get on. Do you have any, I know you can get on the wait list, get an invite from folks.
Well, I mean, it's, if I'm your contact in my phone and you're my contact in your phone and you go and request your username, it pops up a little notification. If I've got the app open, that'll let us in. It's going to become public soon enough. We're betting a lot on fall of this year.
Okay.
They said months before they have an Android, not a year. That was done in January. So I take months as maybe around October. I'm going to tell you, I don't think they're going to release an Android version until it's ready to go open more public. Now they may release the Android version like in a beta and do it the same way they did the iPhone, but I don't think they're going to have the iPhone in beta and also have the Android in beta at the same time. I think the iPhone's going to open up a little bit more. They're getting funding rounds left and right. So I think it's just a matter of time before it opens up very publicly. And, honestly, you can go right now. I think on eBay, you can buy an invite for $29. I had one of my friends, he's in the franchise world. And I told him, I said, go buy an Apple device. And he bought an iPad. He spent $700. He hated it. And he's working $100 million deal off a Clubhouse right now.
Doesn't hate it
anymore. That came into a pitch room. And he loves it now, but it came into a pitch room. They pitched, they didn't get a deal. He saw something in the opportunity and he knew he could connect the dots offline and he took it offline. And now he's in the middle of $100 million deal directly from Clubhouse.
That's it. Show up.
So even if you can't get on stage, you can sit in the audience and just listen and just say, Sally and George need to meet. Let's go connect Sally and George. I'm going to put myself in the middle of Sally and George. How can I put myself in the middle of Sally and George? Well, I heard Sally speak and I heard George speak. I'm going to introduce them. I'm going to build a little one-on-one relationship and make an introduction. I'm going to plop myself right in the middle of that. And they're going to go do great things together. And they're going to remember that I'm the person who made that introduction for them.
Think about starting all over again. That would be the approach. You literally need no skills other than showing up, listening, and figuring out a little creatively connecting the dots. It's kind of like, it reminds me of Jay Abraham, like referral. He's just figuring out all these different ways to connect. You can literally exercise that muscle multiple times a day, every day, whenever you want.
Yeah. I've literally connected with people on Clubhouse by just sitting in the room, not being on stage, listening, and then just going and hitting them up on DM on Instagram saying, hey, I heard you ask this question. The answer they gave was okay, but here's a really cool article that I think will take you even deeper on that answer. And just being of value in the DMs off of Clubhouse. And it's opened up conversations. I've gone back and forth. I've sent them links to podcasts. Next thing you know, we're growing in other areas outside of Clubhouse.
Yeah, it's great. Running podcast rooms in Clubhouse is a great idea too.
Mm-hmm.
So recording a podcast live in Clubhouse, because you never know who's going to show up.
Yeah, that's true.
So you run a little room and you put a topic around it. Like today, we're going to talk about Facebook ads, and you email a bunch of people and you say, stop by and I might bring you up.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you have a podcast episode with 10 guests that are all random, that all come on stage. It's all recorded. It's all live, and it goes and it's released on a podcast.
We got ourselves a Rodecaster Pro right in front of us. So
Awesome.
I think we got everything we need to record.
Just like the opportunities there, because getting, I've booked podcast guests from there. So like Myron Golden was one that I really wanted to talk to. I think Myron's phenomenal. I think he's telling a case study right now. He did $500,000 in the first 30 days on Clubhouse and selling his high ticket product. But I met Myron on Clubhouse. I kept engaging with him. I stalked him. Every room he went in, I went in.
Yeah.
Myron would talk. I would go right behind him. Man, that was great, Myron. Let me tell you this story. Man, that was great, Myron. And then I reached out and said, hey, Myron, would you be on my podcast? Sure, Gary, I'd love to. He never, ever once asked. And then like Dennis Yu.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know Dennis.
Yeah.
Very well.
But Dennis Yu. Well, I asked Dennis, I was going to launch my podcast like 2 years ago. Asked him 2 years ago to be on it. And I got sorry, we're too busy.
Yep.
He went and found that email and replied to it when he saw me on Clubhouse and said, Gary, now I think I should do this.
Dennis is a smart
Michael
man.
Stelzner. Yeah, Michael Stelzner from Social Media Examiner, same thing. I got the thanks, but no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Heard me on Clubhouse, flipped around and said, when would you like me on your podcast?
Yeah, buddy. Oh.
Never once asked my listener metrics, never once asked anything, my promotional plan, never once did anything. Just heard me speak. So, sometimes you just have to have the opportunities, because I'll tell you, we did a hell of a lot of podcast outreach about 2 years ago, and everyone said no because I was behind the scenes. Nobody knew my name. Now that I have an equal playing field and I have a stage I can go speak on, like Clubhouse, which you can too, or anyone can too, then you can start to have people hear your voice, which is what you truly want them to hear, because then they get to know you, they build a relationship with you, and the doors open up in a huge way.
It's a hell of a way to get on podcasts. That's for sure. Just get on Clubhouse and start connecting, man.
And imagine sitting in the audience. Imagine like you guys have an amazing podcast here, and you're cruising the audience. You're sitting in the audience, and you're like, "Ooh, I really like that person." You actually have the listener stats. You have all the metrics. You have everything to actually be like when you ask somebody, they're like, "Yes, please."
Yeah.
Like it's
well,
like
for
you
us,
get the
it's kind of
easy.
we have a lot of the buddies, all their friends.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of the common thing. They're like, oh, well, I got to join my crew. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
But you
can like sit in the audience and just like pick your guests now, and you can say,
seriously.
I've been listening to this person. They bring something to the table that I didn't think of. I want to reach out to this person and say, hey, would you be willing to be on my podcast? They're not going to say no, because if they're on Clubhouse speaking, they're looking for exposure.
That's right. Very good point. Yeah.
They're
Those are the ones to
actually
reach out
actively looking for exposure, because they're spending their time and energy and effort speaking for free.
So you mean I could get Elon?
to.
No. He might be an
You
extreme
never know.
example.
You never know.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, he's on our list of our Dream 100, so we're still shooting for it.
Right.
Well, how could you get him? Well, he's going to, at some point in time, want to play a big game in Clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
The people who have big audiences in Clubhouse, they're going to get on stage.
Yeah.
I'm getting on stage with someone that is worth $4.5 billion. And the way I'm getting on stage is because of my audience and my following. And I'm a co-mod doing the welcome party for someone worth $4.5 billion.
So
Because of my following, because of my relationship. So when you build that up, it opens the doors to brand partnerships. And, just the same way as you would get like with your podcast, you may have, almost every author in your vertical is going to come through your podcast because you're going to sell books. You're going to help people sell books. That's what happens. Well, as you grow a following on Clubhouse, it's like, well, I need an audience myself. I don't want to be in a room with 5 people.
Yep.
Like if Elon wouldn't have went into the club that he went into and had that, he wouldn't have had an audience either.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Well, if he would have just went on and created his account and launched his first room, the Welcome Elon Musk room, nobody would have showed up because nobody would have known it was him and it was real. He had to coordinate a little bit. He had to put the pieces together. He had to go in the right club. He had to get the right audience, the right press behind it.
Yeah.
Bill Gates was on there last night. Same thing. He was on last night at 9:00 Eastern.
I saw, one of the very first rooms I went to as well was with Naval Ravikant was in the room. And, we know his brother Kamal, and they were both in there along with some guys from Apple. And for a while, it was like 20 people in the room. I was like, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that, he'll never go on podcasts. He's only on Twitter, but he said straight up, this is my platform, ClubHouse.
Yep.
I know he's also an investor. So little biased probably, but the fact that he's saying that and he's talking about his perspective, I'm like, where else are you going to get this kind of brain, like literally freely giving, and you can ask him questions if you wish.
Yeah.
20 people. The other night, like Billie Jean and Perry and a bunch of those guys were on stage. It was about 10 of them. They talked for 4 hours. Never once brought anyone up to the stage. There was 1,500 people in the room listening. I mean, think about that. Like, those fly on the wall conversations. It's what a podcast is.
That's right.
Like the three of us, we're having this amazing conversation that we're both like high energy, super into, we're loving. And at some point in time in the future, a lot of people are going to get to hear this.
Yeah.
That's what ClubHouse is. We could just have a conversation live, and we could have a group of people listening right now live to whatever we're talking about, and they will stay because they're entertained. Just the same reason why they stay and listen to your podcast, because they're entertained.
Well, we should do a ding room together on podcasting sometime and then bring the joy out.
You should.
Live.
Like, we're talking about doing some cool rooms. Like, once I can get my schedule down, whenever new podcast release, like bringing, like, imagine if the three of us, like, you drop the podcast, we schedule it whatever week the podcast comes out, and we schedule a Q&A.
That's exactly what we thought. We haven't done it yet, but you might be the very first guy we hit up for that.
And happy to do that. Happy to like have you take that and do it with everyone. Like, why not? You're spending your time and effort and energy getting me on your podcast. Like, why not do as much as you can to bring it all together and promote it and leverage it and grow with it, and all these great things that are here to come. It's smart for me. It gets me a better use out of my time with you. It gets you a better use out of your time with me.
Grows all of our stuff. Yeah,
I was just talking to someone on an influencer marketing stage, and they said, that the smartest influencer companies, they come to you and get the shout out, but they get you to pay. They pay you for your content that they own the rights to. So then, like, this female shop or this male shop, East Bay, whatever it is, Under Armour, if they sent me a bunch of merchandise to post, they would actually own the rights to that post and imagery. So they could use me in any ad I wanted on their website. That's good for me too. I know there's rights in that if you're at a certain level as a model. I'm obviously not. But if I'm shouted out on one of the things I'm trying to play when my book comes out, I want to get shouted out on the GoDaddy website. Imagine me on the homepage of GoDaddy.
Heck yeah. like that would be huge.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, looking at this and saying, okay, well, now we've got a podcast with Gary Henderson or a podcast with Hal Elrod or a podcast with Lewis Howes. How can we use this at the different points in time? How can we use our relationship and bring in our best of and put together some epic stages in ClubHouse and bring in some of our friends that have been our very best episodes and push those again really big and bring those into ClubHouse and curate some really epic spaces that no one else can touch.
Yeah, it's so
and you have that because you have the access to all those guests and all those relationships there. You have a podcast family.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And that's how we see it too, because we do keep connecting. I mean, what better way can we all share in this together and grow together? And it could be, I mean, any podcaster can do this also, obviously, but this is so cool, man.
Yeah, I want to talk real quickly before we wrap up about your book. I'm curious how the deal came about. So you're publishing your book on Hay House. How did that all come about? How did they approach you, or did you approach them? What's the story there?
Well, so I know Reed. I met Reed in Jeff Walker's mastermind. So Reed Tracy's the CEO of Hay House. And at the time I was having a beer with Reed and I said, hey, have you ever thought about publishing a book on aromatherapy? And he said, well, we have. We're kind of looking for an author. And I said, I got the perfect author for you. And we just delivered. And then multiple clients of mine over the years have published with Hay House and we've always delivered for them. So I got the reputation with Reed as when Gary works on a book from a marketing side, he's going to deliver. So I got into ClubHouse. I got my account on the 24th. I got active on the 27th. On, I think the 9th of January, I sent Reed an email. I said, hey, Reed, hope you're doing well, buddy. I hadn't talked to you in a little while. Like to talk to you about this new app, ClubHouse. Think there needs to be a book on it. I'd like to talk to you about it. He wrote me back and he said, sure, Gary, let's get on a Zoom call. So I scheduled a 30-minute Zoom, no book proposal, no outline. I just looked dead in the camera and said, There's this new app. It's really fire. I think it's going to be amazing. I think there needs to be a business book about it. It's underlying human psychology relationships, because that's what ClubHouse is. Yes, it's social media, and I get that, but there's another component here that's very unique, and we need to write a book about that. And he said, Gary Hayhouse would love to have a book about that, and we'd love for you to be the author. I said, well, that'd be cool. And we kind of just like ended the call there. And then I got an email back that I got a 5-figure book advance. I didn't even know that because I didn't care.
Right.
Like, I just wanted to write. I know what a book does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know the path when you write the book, and I know what I can do with this book. So I didn't care. I just needed the book published. I didn't want to self-publish. Nothing against self-publishing. There's a lot of great things for self-publishing, but I didn't want to. I had been very, very careful to not pigeonhole myself platform.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe I had some conversations with Pete from Mashable, the founder of Mashable, and he covered Twitter when it launched, and he talked about the signals for ClubHouse are way stronger than Twitter. I don't think it's a bad platform to attach to right now. I got 10 years. I turned 40 this year. I turned 40 in July. I want to be done as much as I can by the time I'm 50.
Yeah, man.
So I think ClubHouse is going to be here for 10 years. I really do. Or something like a ClubHouse. I don't think ClubHouse is going to go anywhere. I think there's too many signals coming in. I think if everybody else goes and does something else, that's okay. I don't care if there's Twitter spaces. I don't care if Facebook copies or Instagram copies. I think ClubHouse is going to have its own space. I think there's a true group of people who love the fact that there's no video. And it is truly drop in. And it is totally acceptable to be at the beach or say, I got to mute you and flush my toilet or whatever you need to do. It's acceptable. And when you start throwing in other components to it, it eliminates that accessibility, like video and stuff like that. So I told Reed I'd love to write it. I am working with a team of writers, and we're moving fast. We approved our writer team. We have a manuscript due on the 23rd of April, 2021. And our goal is to have the book on the shelves the 12th of October, 2021, which is super light speed. And my big goal, I thought it was big. Everyone else tells me it's small. My big goal is to sell 50,000 books week one. Everyone else says, Gary, you'll sell way more than that. I've never done it before. I've never sold more than 25,000 week one for one of my clients. So to me, I'm like, I don't have the audience that my client had, and I'm doubling it. That's a pretty big goal.
Amen.
But I think there's a lot of momentum around ClubHouse right now. I think there's a lot of people that understand it. It is a business book about ClubHouse. It's building relationships. It's building connections. It's getting access on podcasts you would never get to, getting people to contribute and write for your blog, getting I got an Inc. feature. I was featured in Inc. magazine. It's literally a featured article that published last week, all from ClubHouse.
Wow.
Now I knew the writer, but he and I he wrote the book Likeable. His name's Dave. I don't know if you know Dave. The book's got the big thumb on the front of it. He wrote a social media book years ago. Yeah. So I knew Dave. He and I, we've connected at conferences and stuff years ago. He started popping in the rooms, and he starts reaching out to me now because I'm the guy on the stage with the 40,000 followers. He's the guy in the audience with 100 followers. I remember when Dave was the guy on the stage speaking at the conference, and I was the guy in the audience.
Trippy is that, man?
So all I did was say, come on, Dave. And I opened my arms and said, let's go. Larry Kim. I don't know if you know Larry. He founded WordStream. If you don't know Larry Kim, you guys need to know Larry Kim.
All right. Writing the name
he
down.
He founded WordStream. Have you ever heard of WordStream?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So he founded that. That was his company. He sold it for $150 million.
Ah, okay.
He owned the company. Like, it was his.
Dude.
He didn't have debt. It was his company. He's my age, so 39-ish. He lives in Boston, and now his new company is Mobile Monkey, and he's competing with MiniChat.
I've seen Mobile Monkey too.
Have you? Yeah.
So Mobile Monkey is Larry Kim, the unicorn strategy that was really popular on Facebook ads. That's his. He's brilliant. Well, Larry Kim did the same thing. He reached out to me. He spoke at my event back in 2013. He reached out to me and he said, Gary, I see you're really big on ClubHouse. Can you help me expand my audience on ClubHouse? Larry, man, I'd love to help you do that. You know what Larry did? Larry made sure that I was one of the first 50 people to apply to Instagram to get access to the bots. So now I have Instagram bots. You know what all my clients want? Instagram bots. You know what I'm doing for all my clients?
Charging.
All the ones that qualify? No. I'm just helping them get Instagram bots. Because Larry wants to bring key accounts on. So I own or have access to accounts with key influencers. I'm helping everyone out. You know what Larry's getting right now? About 10,000 emails opting in for Mobile Monkey every single week organically. You know who's sending out an email for my book when it publishes? Larry Kim.
Larry.
And he's already committed to be all in on publishing it. Like he says, Gary, I'll go all in for you. So delayed gratification. I'm not asking for anything right now. I'm pushing it out. I know where I'm going. I know I have a book release. I know I'm writing a book. I want that book to impact a lot of people. I sold 700 books for one of my clients in November of 2020. And we did $700,000 worth of revenue in 29 days off of 700 books sold. I can only imagine the revenue that'll be made when I sell 50,000 books. And I didn't say if, I said when.
It's when. No, it definitely is when. And I think it's going to be way quicker than everyone thinks. And probably any other influencer you've worked with. This is magical. I like it because it's timeless. You know, you can apply everything you're saying right now and remove ClubHouse and apply it to life, you know?
Like what mastermind do I need to get in?
Right.
What event do I need to go to? What stage? And in all honesty, if I would have taken the time and energy, like I'm like you, Instagram wasn't my platform. It is now because ClubHouse to Instagram, that path is really clear. So I'm doubling down. I've grown. I was at 2.3K followers at the start of this year. Right now I'm at 15.6, all organic, all from ClubHouse.
Oh, yeah.
So I've grown like 5X my Instagram following. But I was just like you. If I would have taken the same effort and energy though, and put it into Instagram that I have ClubHouse, the same amount of hours, if I would have played all in on the platform, the way the platform wanted me to play, the same way I'm playing on the platform, the way that ClubHouse wants me to play, I would have had the same success on Instagram. I was just lazy. And it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable. Like I don't love my picture taken all the time.
You don't want to do little selfies?
Yeah. Like I did a Reels video though. We're almost to top 4,000. I'm dancing, me and my wife and my 2 kids. It's on Instagram. It's on my Reels. It's my first one. And we're just getting ready to top 4,000 views on that. So I did do that and I'm going to do more of those.
Yeah.
But I would have never played all in if it wasn't for ClubHouse.
Well,
and I didn't find a platform that I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
It is. I got the video. I'm going to put it on TikTok.
You might as well, I guess.
Well, repurpose. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just telling you guys, like I went all in on, I have a fan club. I've never had a fan club. I've done over $20,000 in revenue and people joining my fan club so far this year.
We're recording this in February, just for reference.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I haven't sold it. Basically, like I did 20,000 the first 30 days of the year because I did a test. So I said, can I get people to pay $500 to join my fan club? Well, hot damn, I can. Like, sure. It's wild to me. Like people are like, do you have merch? Do you have this? Do you have this? I can get some merch. Like Damon John
printing some shirts with your face on.
The shirts with the microphone.
I got the logo.
Yeah.
I got my own logo. It's all set. It's Gary Club. It looks like a nightclub. It's amazing. Like Damon John's team reached out and they're like, can we sign you to our speaker bureau?
Wow.
And I'm like, well, let me breathe for a minute and then no, because I'm going to write a book and my speaker fees are going to go way up. So let's not sign anything yet. Let me get the book done.
Yeah, let's talk in November or so. Huh?
Yeah, let's delayed gratification. I can't really speak anywhere right now anyway. There's a global pandemic.
Why would you want to? I mean,
right. There's a global pandemic and I've got 1,500 people live on ClubHouse at any point in time I want to talk.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'll delay it. And then when my book comes out and I sell 50,000 copies and I'm one of the most requested keynote speakers, then I can put my feet out.
Do you know what the title of the book's going to be yet? And if you
I have no clue.
Oh, okay. If you did, you might not even be able to tell us anyway. So
probably true.
I wish I did. I have no clue. They asked me, the Hay House team, they said, Gary, what's the title of the book? I said, will you tell me when you figure it out? I suck at titling stuff.
I just love the way you approach all of these things. You're not doing a damn book and all these different things that a traditional, author would do with a publisher, speaker. I mean, everything is just completely just.
I'm a marketer.
Yeah, you are.
I'm a marketer. I market. So do I need to write a book? Sure. It's my audio and I have a team and they're going to do it all and it'll all be laid down. I have hours of audio that I got to put down for them, but I'm a marketer. My job is to sell books. That's an author's job, is to sell books. It's not an author's job to write the book. It's an author's job to sell the book. Reed Tracy taught me, you know what, the best way, and he taught me this years ago, the best way to get someone to buy your book is to get someone to read your book. What am I doing? I'm extending my book digitally because I want people reading my book. I don't want to sell 50,000 copies. My big goal is 1 million copies. I want it translated like I welcomed 700 people. I spoke Chinese the other day on ClubHouse. No joke. I said, welcome and Happy New Year because it was Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
And I was taught by people on stage how to speak Chinese. I spoke Chinese to 700 people. You know why? Because my book will get translated to Chinese.
Dang right.
I want them to buy my book in Chinese. because I know where it goes. I know who it'll help. I know where it'll position me. I'm a marketer. That's what I am. It's what I do. It's what I've done for every one of my clients. I'm just now going to write a book in the process.
Yeah, a smart marketer at that.
Yeah. You're not just a marketer.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You're doing things that 90% of marketers probably wouldn't do. So,
well, yeah. I mean, you have a plan. That's the thing. It's not like you're just haphazardly doing this, but I like the fact that you're framing things. Seems like a consistent thing maybe is this is a test. I'm going to run this test for this specific period of time. To others, it might seem like Gary's always living on ClubHouse. What the hell is he doing with his life? Oh, guess what? He's got a plan. He's playing the time zone thing. Like you said, there's a plan behind the man.
Well, they all perked up whenever I got to announce my book deal because everybody else was thinking about maybe I should write a book. I went and got the book deal, but I had the plan. What did I pitch? I didn't pitch I had the biggest following. All I pitched was to my friend Reed that I had a relationship with. I said, I should write your business book. He knows I'm a marketer. He knows what I can do. He's been in the same room with me many times. Who better to write? I've never asked him to write a book.
Trust. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, who better? Well, I didn't need to go to him and say, I have the biggest following on ClubHouse. All I needed to say was, I know how to write the book on ClubHouse. He said, sure you do, Gary. So my friends got way bigger followings, but I had to shift for a minute and I had to go and make sure my book was ready. And I got my book deal because ClubHouse isn't going away in March or April or May. I don't need to sprint right now. It's a marathon. And when the book hits the shelves in October, I'll be in my own little way, like the poet that did the reading at the inauguration. I will have so much traffic from outside of ClubHouse coming in looking for me because I wrote the business book on ClubHouse. So now my angle is switched. Who do I partner with? Who can help me reach my goal of selling 50,000 books? Who can I go serve right now? How can I deposit so much money into the bank for all of these people in such a big way that when I come back with a little ask, then they would love to promote my book? So that's what I do now every day.
This is infectious. It's pumping me up. I want to get on ClubHouse and just start tearing it up right now. Got a podcast, man. But you're right, man. I mean, it's really exciting because we have a brand we're actually about to release, time of this recording, next week. And it's all around podcasting. Pod Hacker is the name. And our goal is to, go ClubHouse, go strong on ClubHouse. We've already done it kind of haphazardly, but now with that as a plan to funnel into something like that or some other stuff. I mean, there's no better way right now to, I think, put a brand newly out into the world like that. Get the right people.
I agree with you 100%. ClubHouse is a perfect opportunity to go do that.
Yeah, brother.
For sure. Well, wrapping up here, is there anywhere else you want people to go check out? The book's coming out in October. Gary.club. Is that the fan club?
Yeah, that's the best place to get access to me. Our corporate website is digitalmarketing.org. We write a lot about digital marketing. We rank for pretty much anything to do with influencer marketing, personality brands, stuff like that. That's a ton of free content. Direct access to me is at gary.club.
Sweet. And get the, I know you have a ClubHouse guide that's super helpful too. I think it's at gary.club. So get your hands on that.
Yeah,
it's good.
Most definitely.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you. Dude. Hey, all right. So I'm just going to start this by saying,
dude. You already started it by saying, dude.
Dude, I did start that way, but get the action guides. So I'm talking to the listeners at this point, not you. These action guides from Gary.
Fine.
Guys,
I'm just going to go home.
You should. Sit right where you're at, right in your home. No, get the action guides. So flowchartgroup.com. Go there, get the notes for this episode because Gary, I mean, even after we wrapped up, he was still giving us like he couldn't stop. I was like, my God.
After we hit record, after we hit like stop on the record, I'm kind of like, man, we should have kept on recording for another 20 minutes because he was still dropping gold nuggets to us after the recording was over.
He's practiced on ClubHouse.
Yeah.
you gotta fill a lot of time, but you get really interesting, man, when you get that practice, that muscle. But yeah, get the action guides, the notes for this episode at flowchartgroup.com. I just want to say that right here because you're probably on a high like I am after listening to him or chatting with him. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I feel like we've kind of touched on ClubHouse quite a bit lately. We had Deb Cole on. That whole episode was about ClubHouse. That was kind of a bonus Saturday episode where we shared a live stream. We had Sean Vossler on, which mostly was about copywriting, but we had a good chunk of that episode where we talked about ClubHouse.
Oh yeah.
And now we've got this episode. But I want to let the audience know we're not turning into a podcast about ClubHouse.
Right.
Like
just a timely thing.
It's a very timely thing, and I think this is probably the last episode we're going to specifically do about ClubHouse. I'm sure we'll touch on it with other guests who are involved in ClubHouse, but this will probably be the last sort of deep dive episode on ClubHouse we do for a while, unless we start learning some new crazy things about it and stuff.
Well, the beautiful thing is, this wasn't like a tactician type, like, okay, this is the terminology of ClubHouse or anything.
Right.
It's like, I think with Deb, we went deeper in that regard of like how ClubHouse works and all those logistics
and some
stuff.
best practices and things like that.
What I found really fascinating, and because that's a great primer, so I'd definitely go back to that episode with Deb Cole. Gary's here was just like, literally, here's the philosophy, the business philosophy, the people philosophy of how to create really anything you want, leveraging ClubHouse. But obviously, you can apply this in so many other ways in life.
Yeah,
and it's just fascinating how Gary has done this, and he's working with the top names in the marketing industry. I mean, you've heard him on here. He's getting books published through his connections and through this consistent effort. It's just so cool.
No, I mean, I feel like this was a masterclass on how to connect with who you want to connect with and how to get the things done you want to get done. I mean, as general as that sounds, I feel like you have some really, really solid frameworks after listening to this episode about, okay, now I kind of get the picture on how to connect with any influencer. Here's the secret. There's no big secret, right? The
show up and give value and be cool. Help them out.
the big secret is you got to be in the rooms where these people are. You got to be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens, the room where it happens.
That's right. You had to complete that phrase.
I had to complete it, right? You had to be like, that is the trick to connecting with people is to be where they are, right? Go to the masterminds, be in these ClubHouse rooms, ask the questions when you get the opportunity to ask the questions, just, proximity.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's I've heard this from so many, in that mastermind I'm in here locally. Won't name names because we keep kind of, low key. But multiple people on there who are big speakers, they're like, this is amazing. I'm literally like going to the gym 20, 30 minutes. I'll throw this on and I'm in front of thousands of people. And then I do my workout, and maybe later in the day, a couple times I hop in there. Like, what other place in the world can you just hop on a stage when you're like going to the gym or maybe on a treadmill or something? Yeah. And you're doing what Gary's doing. You're closing deals, or at least you're generating a lot of momentum and helping people out that lead to something.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to travel anywhere. It's great for us with kids and just obviously pandemic and stuff. It's like, man, there's so much leverage here, and you can do way more just without leaving your house.
Yeah.
You should leave your house. I mean, safely.
But
you know what I mean? It's just fascinating to hear, like, here are speakers and people who have done a lot of touring. I mean, Mark Victor Hansen, when we had him on, he said the same damn thing. I mean, he was leveraging podcasts a lot for his book, but he did mention ClubHouse too. And that guy's a speaker. He's traveled the world, I don't know how many years, you know? And he was like, yeah, this is pretty good because I can be all over the world every single day in front of new audiences. So,
yeah. And Gary, he's probably the best person to possibly have the ClubHouse conversation with, because he is somebody that I think you and I personally watched his rise from brand new on ClubHouse to, holy shit, where did this guy come from? He's like one of the biggest names on ClubHouse now, at least in the marketing sphere. Yeah. Right. And it's like, he even said, like, he got on around the 24th or so. So he literally got on ClubHouse pretty
like
close.
December-ish.
Yeah, in December-ish,
it sounded like. Got
on. Yeah. I don't think he said the 24th. He didn't say the month, but he also said stuff started happening in January. So I just kind of, I'm assuming.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But we got on in December. Like, I think the first day I ever used it was December 24th, Christmas Eve.
I was like day before.
Yeah, I think you got on a day before I did. And, Gary Henderson got on right around the same time. I think the first couple rooms that we were in the same rooms with Gary. So we like connected, that's how we kind of connected, was some of these early rooms. We all had the similar follower counts, probably sub 100 followers on that first day. Right. And
little party hats on.
And he just totally embraced the platform and went, I found my place. I found like the social media platform that is for me. And we just watched this meteoric rise of Gary. And luckily, I think I reached out to him and was talking to him in some of the back channels before this sort of meteoric rise. So I connected with him before
the bots and all the
before there was bots on Instagram and before he had 40,000 followers. You know, I was connecting with him back when we were reaching the hundreds of followers, and that's how we connected. And so this podcast has actually been kind of a few months in the making. We had to reschedule once, and some other stuff popped up, but.
Probably for the better, honestly, because he had better stats and experience.
And we got to learn about that tool DireCon. Like, holy shit! Like
this. Check out YouTube if you're just listening to this. Well, you would be because this isn't published on YouTube. Go to YouTube, hustleandflowchart.tv. We'll get you there and look for Gary on the show. And either as a clip or in the full episode, you could see the screenshot or, him sharing his screen and reading those numbers. But that platform is insane. I don't know how they're getting that data and all that stuff, but it's a lot of data that you would never get from any other platform. That's for damn sure, like a social media platform.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. And I think just learning about that tool, like, damn, like that's going to make that's going to quantify our time on ClubHouse, right? I think one of our big issues with ClubHouse is like, man, we spent so many hours on here. We've been in so many rooms. I feel like we're wasting our time. Like that's a lot of talk around ClubHouse. It's like, man, you just get sucked in and spend so many hours. Well, if you can actually quantify that and go, okay, yeah, I did spend 3 hours on ClubHouse today, but look, I gained hundreds of new followers. My Instagram account grew here. People listen to me for, 500 hours combined today. Like, okay, now that waste of time on ClubHouse doesn't feel like such a waste of time anymore.
Not at all. And even if you don't have a product or anything, like Gary didn't have any of that stuff. He had, he has his agency, his company. But at the end of the day, if he wasn't in there with that intention to let's go sell some shit, like you heard what his intention is. It's long game. And it just happened to be that all these things kind of fall in place. It's like when we had Guy Kawasaki on the show,
which hasn't come out yet.
Come out yet, but just a little hint. Being lucky is kind of part of it, showing up and being around in the space, in the room where it happens.
Yeah.
Room where it happens. Okay. Had to, the universe would not be happy with me if I completed that statement. So, someone's probably like, the hell you guys keep saying?
Go watch Hamilton.
All right, there you go. But yeah, man, I mean, it's like there's a luck element, but also it's show up and do the damn work, the grit factor and, do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure this episode is coming out before Guy. I'm not actually sure. Some of the stuff might get rearranged, but it's funny because I think one of the things we talked to Guy about was ClubHouse. We did talk with him. It wasn't most of the show. There's like maybe a 10-minute chunk where we talked about ClubHouse. But one of the things that Guy said, which is kind of funny after hearing this conversation, is nobody's figured out how to monetize ClubHouse. But, there are some people that are figuring it out.
He's not in the marketing space primarily.
Yeah.
And Gary is. We are. And it is interesting because you go to the Silicon Valley folks, which, Guy is more of or is, and they're not doing this kind of thing. Like that whole conversation when I was in this room with Naval and Kamal Ravikant and some other ones, they were talking about this exact thing. They're like, it's so interesting. The marketing room is doing a completely different thing than the original users of ClubHouse were ever using this social media platform as.
Yeah, for sure. Fascinating stuff. And you and I even said this right when the call was over is, man, we could have had a 3-hour Joe Rogan style call with Gary Henderson. Like we could have kept on going. We liked talking to him so much and he was such a good storyteller and he had so many like resources and, cool stories from his past. And like, we could have just kept on going. So I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't our last episode we ever did with Gary Henderson, but I would be surprised if our next episode with Gary Henderson wasn't also streamed somewhere like ClubHouse.
I was going to say, well, at a minimum, we're gonna aim to do a Q&A session with Gary per his suggestion on the podcast. So we'll figure that out. But I would say keep a lookout in email or community or somewhere around the time this thing goes live. We'll try to schedule something with him.
You know what's funny? I don't think Gary ever actually said what his handle was on ClubHouse.
Look up Gary Henderson on ClubHouse.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you go to Gary.club, I think he's probably got the details there as well. So.
Yeah, go to Gary.club for sure. A lot of great resources. I mean, by now you probably know this guy's full of value.
And it's Gary. I don't know. Are there alternate spellings of Gary? I think
but Gary, the most common way, .club.
Yep.
And check out his podcast, All the Way Up podcast. And he also has a Gary.club podcast. Just go to Gary.club. It'll get you there.
Yep.
Get the notes. Again, we already talked about it, but flowchartgroup.com. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. These are one of the notes that I want to definitely grab myself and study again. So get those, sign up for within 2 weeks of this episode going live. And also, get into the Facebook group with all of us hanging out. We'll try to get Gary in there too. Flowchartgroup.com. And then, of course, our buddies over there at Easy Webinar.
Yep.
You want to go start some webinars and do that thing in the webinar game. They got you covered on all fronts. And that's the all-in-one platform. Does everything. I mean, not really much more to say, but there's a lot of webinars and they handle it all and they make it super simple.
Yeah. One of the things Gary actually suggested after we stopped recording is some of these podcast episodes, why not make them live? Let people join them like they were a webinar and just sort of be a fly on the wall in these conversations. That's what people are doing on ClubHouse anyway. And if we were going to go that route, we'd do it with Easy Webinar.
So right, man. Yeah, it does it all. You stream and record all that stuff. So they're hooking you up with a fat discount over there at easywebinar.com/hustle. That's easywebinar.com/hustle. Go check it out. Share this episode. If you got someone interested in ClubHouse or you think that they would just be a rock star in ClubHouse, I haven't heard a really good in-depth conversation like this, at least in podcast front.
Yeah. No, I'm hoping that this episode gets shared around as like one of the best resources to learn about the value and like why people would care about ClubHouse. So,
and not even ClubHouse, but connecting with people and doing big stuff, man.
Yeah.
Like all of us can do it. And I was serious and like, you really don't need any skill. And if I were to start back up, this would be the way to do it.
For sure.
Start connecting and making stuff happen between folks. So thank you.
Thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Before taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address and we'll send you the notes.